Close your eyes and let this poem wash over your consciousness. What happens to a dream deferred? Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun? Or fester like a sore and then run? Does it stink like rotten meat? Or crust and sugar over like a syrupy sweet? Maybe it just sag like a heavy load. Or does it explode? The unhoused population has exploded and is growing with over 70,000 unhoused people. Instead of meeting this crisis with compassion and financial resources, the city council, city attorney, law enforcement, NIMBYs, and business improvement district around Los Angeles and beyond have exploded with violence, criminalization, harassment, and more punitive laws against the unhoused. What happens to a dream deferred? Langston Hughes, a Harlem Renaissance poet, asked an indifferent, violent, cruel, evil, and legally punitive society in the 1920s and 30s. In 2020, we asked the same question with the houseless community in question. In this episode of We the Unhoused, we hear the sore, festering account from Hal Self-Made.
There's a document, and I realized that it was written a long, long time ago and maybe not by the best of minds, but as we stand right now, it's all we've got. And this document has in it certain inalienable rights. If you learn your Constitution, you can do so much. And your rights that are guaranteed in that Constitution do not evaporate when you become unhoused. Just because you don't have an address don't mean you're not human.
The stinking account from unhoused veteran Papa Smurf.
And y'all out here in Hollywood, California, I don't care what you say, it still gets cold by 6:30 with no sun out here. By 9 o'clock, you're freezing to death. So you get sick, and then you have to deal with living with the flu for a week in your tent. It's horrible. It's horrible.
And the heavy load of life of Lezzie's and Maddog's triumphs and travails.
It is tough to take care of somebody who has cancer or any kind of disease on the street because we don't have amenities. We don't have a bathroom, we don't have a doctor, we don't have anything that we can, so I'm kind of doing this, with God and kick naturally. And like I said, it's so tough because we are exhausted day in and day out from the relentlessness of everyone else on top of our own problems, on top of being out here.
I hope this episode brings about an explosion of positive change for our unhoused guests and for all of the unhoused community. We cannot succumb to the destructive and harmful narrative of the good, worthy unhoused people versus the ones that don't want help and deserve to be criminalized unhoused. Even in the houseless community, we hear this poison like the syrupy sweet in Langston Hughes' poem. We hear this position, this poison, if you will, in order to justify or to blanket a certain camaraderie with certain business owners to curry favor. We must strive for balance of fact and truth, and above all, compassion and the resurgence of our humanity for people in a vulnerable position. Please listen, learn, and help your fellow man. Unhoused news. 2 unhoused men died from exposure in Denver, Colorado. A total of 16 deaths in the city. Denver Police Commander Aaron Sanchez says one of the men died near a bus stop on Brighton Boulevard, the second on the sidewalk in the 2100 block of California Street. New York City's solution is to criminalize and sadistically cause more suffering to the unhoused. MTA removes its backs from the benches of subway stations to stop the unhoused from sleeping. An agency spokesperson said it has an impact, an improvement in safety and comfort. Not looking at unhoused people is uncomfortable. Improve cleanliness because unhoused people are dirty. We won't provide showers. We will always stand up for the subway riding public, not the unhoused, as we work to keep stations safe, clean, and orderly. As an afterthought, they have convinced service-resistant and 2,800 unhoused people to accept social services. House subway rider says the unhoused population needs to be dealt with. If it keeps them from sleeping on the benches, that's fine with me. Regular people want to sit on the bench and rest their legs after a long day. Salvatore Palmer says removing the back of a bench is a small sacrifice for a better subway platform for everyone else. James K., 50-year-old houseless man, says the shelters are hard for some people. These are some mean folks and tough guys. They don't let you sleep on the train anymore, but you have to sleep somewhere. In Park Lutton Street, David Ware, 53 years old, a house resident, has admitted to pouring fuel on an unhoused man in the street before setting him afire. At 4:15, February 17, 2020, Ware sprayed a flammable liquid from a bottle over a houseless man who was sitting outside a fast food restaurant. He used a lighter to ignite the accelerant. A security officer in Santa Cruz, California, has houseless advocates upset, belittling the unhoused. A security officer from MCM Diversified has used YouTube to document his interactions with the unhoused. He says this goes on YouTube for public shaming, so you can learn your lessons, you can get a better life like everybody else, get jobs, pay taxes. The guard uploaded 15 videos to his YouTube page entitled Working Class Person. Unhoused Californians win new protection in Caltrans settlement. Caltrans will pay $2 million for destroying unhoused people's belongings and modify its procedures for sweeps of encampments. A lawsuit was filed in 2016 on behalf of houseless Californians who challenged the destruction of their property, including food, clothing, medical supplies, and family heirlooms between December 2014 and October 2019. Legal Director Elisa Della Piana says the Fourth Amendment protects all of us against the unjust seizure of our belongings, not just people who are housed. Osha Newman, supervising attorney of the East Bay Community Law Center, said, "For years we heard complaints of people who told us they had to stand by helplessly while Caltrans crews threw belongings they treasured in the trash compacting garbage trucks. Sometimes people with disabilities were given only a few minutes to move everything they wanted to save. We hope with this settlement, those days are over." In other news, more than 1 in 3 Californians fear becoming houseless. 1 in 4 Californians feel that they or a family member could actually become unhoused. According to the USC Price School of Public Policy and the USC Schwarzenegger Institute for State and Global Policy, Dr. Gary Painter weighs in saying it shouldn't be surprising because there are over 1.3 million households in California, paying more than half their income as rent. We saw that 37.5% of voters are afraid that they are either themselves or someone in their family could become houseless. Voters' attitude shows a mixture of compassion and enforcement. 28% favor an enforcement-first approach, while 50% support, if no housing and no other options available, have families stay with their children. 65% support housing, understanding that economic factors and forces are driving first-time houselessness actually does change how people think about the problem. Good afternoon. This is Theo Henderson from Weezy Unhoused. I'm currently in Hollywood, California. I'm talking to a disabled, unhoused person about the challenges that goes on here with Detective Gainey and other police officers targeting disabled, unhoused people by forcing their tents down due to medical issues that they need the tents up. It is a very warm 70 and above kind of day, and unhoused people, like house people, need shelter. However, due to Nuri Martinez's war on the unhoused and the anti-unhoused sentiment here in Hollywood, California, they have been pushing to terrorize unhoused people. One must ask the question, what causes people to hate poor people so much that they will make them suffer? They cannot abide by people having to survive. They don't want to see it. They claim to be Christians, they claim to be taxpayers, they claim to be anything but a decent human being in order to get a supportive housing. So in the studios, we have Hal, and I was just mentioning that I'm so excited. We've been trying to meet up for some time, and it's finally here. So welcome to the Weezy Unhoused Studios. So give us a little introduction.
Hey, I'm Hal. I've been unhoused in the Hollywood area for a little more than a year, profoundly disabled from birth, genetic problems, wheelchair bound. Live in a tent with my caregiver in Central Hollywood.
You stated that you are wheelchair bound, like many of the unhoused, like in other places such as Echo Park and Chatsworth and North Hollywood. You need certain accommodations because the 1965 Disability Act clarifies that. Unfortunately, when they have Nuri Martinez who is trying to break the law, you need to be able to do some things because you don't have a house or the appropriate place to be able to do certain things. What do you do? How do you take care of yourself?
As far as bathroom facilities, we use a bucket and trash bags, and normally sanitation comes through every day and picks it up. We leave trash in a specific spot, they come get it, we break down, and they move along.
Has the police been around to Barbary or have a conversation with you?
Almost daily, we argue about my constitutional right to shelter, life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, and to be secure in my person's properties and papers, etc., etc. Not to mention my ADA rights, which the ADA states that in matters of housing, all reasonable accommodations that could be made should be made. My tent is my housing at the moment, so your municipal code is bunk according to federal law. I have a right to survive.
I agree. So I understand you informed me last week that they were threatening to arrest you, or tell us a little bit what happened that brought up to that.
Last week was street cleaning day, and I'm supposed to completely break down to zeros and move my camp so that they can allegedly power wash, sweep, and spray bleach water.
How are you able to do that and you're in a wheelchair and you're unable to move?
Well, I do have a caregiver, and he does 99% of the work. I do all of the arguing. So the police came over, and what happened? I refused to get out my tent. I invoked several of my constitutional rights. They threatened to cut me out of my tent, threatened to destroy my property, kidnap me, and take me to jail.
Okay, you know what police officer that did this? Because
that was Detective Gainey, Shannon Gainey.
I'm surprised because Steve Lopez makes her out to be some kind of saint, person that is resourceful, kind, and compassionate.
I make no unsubstantiated claims. All of my interactions with police are recorded and uploaded to YouTube immediately. Check me out.
Tell us, how did you become unhoused?
I'm originally from Tennessee. I am also transgender, and, if you're from the Southeast and you do not fall into all four categories of rich, white, heterosexual, and cisgender, you are a problem to be eradicated. As soon as my transition became apparent, my landlords made up some really bad things, but it was a civil case. I wasn't afforded a lawyer. I did some slick talking and got out from under it without an eviction on my record, but still ended up unhoused.
What pronoun genders you use?
He, him, his.
So how did you just decide to come to California if you was in Tennessee?
That actually was funny. My caregiver and I, my significant other, we've been together for 7 years. We finally realized that Unhoused was going to be a thing, and we started out thinking we were going to go to Denver. But even before that, I'm like thinking about what we're going to do, and I have no idea. And under my breath, kind of not even thinking about it, not being serious, I just like, let's go to a legal state and live in the car. And my partner, caregiver from across the one-bedroom apartment we had was, let's do it. It's like, cool. So we started out thinking about Denver, but it was September. We had to be out of the apartment by September. And Denver, base of the mountains, my bones, wintertime, tent, no. And then it was Santa Monica. We ended up in Santa Monica for about a month, and then we were in Venice for a couple of weeks, and that didn't end well either. And then I had an appointment at the LGBT, and we found a tent row not far away.
I have the question. So how was it to be unhoused in Santa Monica? Is it a little kinder?
Ish. I can't really say. I was looking at it through very naive eyes at the time. I'm gonna say we never went hungry, but apparently there were some people who would take pictures of us in our sleep on Muscle Beach and send them to the cops.
That's disconcerting news. I have had a conversation, and I want your perspective on it. I was having a conversation with the photographer who stated that there was a picture of a gentleman that was in a compromising position. And he stated, as a journalist, their responsibility is to record it. There's no such thing as inappropriate journalism. And I wanted your perspective. How did you feel to have your pictures taken while you were asleep?
I believe in such a thing as camera rape. You don't want to be caught with your pants down, so to speak. And I understand a journalist's objectivity, but also, you have some humanity.
Well, there's a rejoinder on that. It says maybe it gets the conversation going about what is humane and humanity. They probably are trying to advance a perspective. What's your thoughts on that?
Then you don't take pictures of someone while they're asleep. You come back while they're awake, you have a conversation, you get consent, and then come back maybe at a later date and catch them sleeping at some point. You don't just camera rape somebody.
Well, that's a unique way of putting it. Because I legitimately do podcasts, and I don't record or interview with people without asking their permission, even though because I have a responsibility, because I want to get the full story and their humanism. However, I know that there's been some controversy in photography because right now the city is being sued for taking a picture of an unhoused person and putting it on a vigilante group and had people coming after him. There was another controversial picture where a person was taking a picture of someone when their pants were literally down and you can see their buttocks showing. So what do you think if you had seen that they were, even though your face was covered, that it was a picture of you where your private behind or your behind was?
That would be completely unacceptable. Completely unacceptable. I go to great lengths to make sure I am not exposed in such a way as would be inconvenient to anyone else. Mm-hmm. And if by some chance I were to fail at that, I don't need the entire world to know that. We're human. We make mistakes. You don't get to take advantage of that just because you think you're better than me.
I get what you're saying. I just wanted to, because that conversation just came up and it had a lot of interesting dialogue. And I'm one that's like, you know what, I'll give it a chance to have what unhoused people have to say about it, because a lot of times that they're missed in the conversation. Even though the photographer was unhoused himself, he felt that it was important for him to take the shot and the angle. And it was supposed to be conversation starting. What could you think that would have been a better conversation point to have about the unhoused crisis?
At that point, like I said, if you find someone that you really think their story is important and needs to be told, you come back to them when they're awake, when they can give consent to the story. To capitalize on someone else's misfortune isn't humane. There's a document, and I realized that it was written a long, long time ago and maybe not by the best of minds, but as we stand right now, it's all we've got. And this document has in it certain inalienable rights. If you learn your Constitution, you can do so much. And your rights that are guaranteed in that Constitution do not evaporate when you become unhoused. Just because you don't have an address don't mean you're not human.
Well said. The other thing is I wanted to ask you is that when you came here down to Hollywood, there's an LGBTQ center, you said. So how did you get connected with them?
Well, there was another lady that moved from Tennessee that got me hooked in with them. She was very forthcoming with information about the LGBT Center and actually provided my first transportation with them.
For the unhoused people that are LGBTQ, can you give the address so they can know it as well?
I do not know it off the top of my head, but it's on Schrader, and if you have access to Google, you can Google LGBT Schrader, and it will give you the address.
Okay, thank you. So go ahead. You were saying she gave you the information?
Yeah, she gave me the information, actually provided my transportation to and from back to my original campsite. And let us stay with her for a little bit when we first got here, but housing is slow and the wheels of bureaucracy grind to a halt out here, so it didn't last long, and we've been out here for over a year now.
So how is the housing situation? Are you on any list or anything for housing?
It depends on who you talk to. I have heard different things from different organizations. They designed this thing to be a hopeless void vortex of swirling mixed signals that you just give up on. And that's exactly what it is. I doubt they've been prepared for an autistic kid with a special interest.
My question is this: what do you think when they say that unhoused people are service resistant after that statement?
I am absolutely not service resistant. There are specific parameters under which I will accept services. I will not go into a shelter. I have been in Path Schrader shelter, and that is a meth den. I refuse to be victim to secondhand smoke. The percentage of meth smokers to non-meth smokers inside that at the time I was in there was greatly disproportionate.
Well, maybe that was because it's a recovery center for them first, and they tried to slap on and put everybody in that, which is another issue too.
That is not the way to do it. That leads to a thing called body brokering. People, you're creating new addicts to run through an insurance scheme.
So basically, they're saying is that they are not service resistant. They have conditions like everyone else. I've noticed that when you're looking for homes, if you don't accept one home, that doesn't mean you're home resistant. You're just trying to find out and weigh your options that will be the best for you. Why is it that people believe that unhoused people do not get that right? We should just take and accept everything that is given to us. So therein lies another dilemma. One other question I have is, do you have any family out here, or are they in Tennessee?
I have very little blood family remaining alive. Some are senile, some are sick. My caregiver, his family has been better to me than my own ever was, and I miss them a lot. They're back in Tennessee. But no, most of the people that I consider family are out here. I didn't find them until I came out here.
That's wonderful to say. Is there anything else would you like to add to the listeners about the unhoused situation for people that don't know and they want to help? What's the best way for us to help you?
Keep in touch, and when we put out the call for help, come. I interact with police almost daily, and almost daily I am under threat of kidnapping. To stop that, I need the support of the housed people in the area. If I put out the call for help, I need help. I'm not crying wolf. I'm trying to stand up for not just my rights, but the rights of everybody else out here. If I can use my white passing privilege to fight the fight that those who can't for any other reason, let me do that, because I ain't got a whole lot of good years left. But I can't do it alone, and I need the support of the other housed folks in the area. If you come by my camp, you will be amazed at the cleanliness, the orderliness, the amount of art and compassion and intelligence that goes on.
And kindness.
And kindness. Yeah. I don't let anybody go hungry. And the only ones that I get particularly confrontational with are the meth addicts that come around and want to act some kind of way. It's like, no, I don't do that. Go away.
So there you have it, that the best way to understand how to help them is to be, as a house member in this area, is to show and be a person of your words to help out. I'm using my heterosexual privileges and my African-American privilege to help all of the unhoused. And this is what we all as human beings do. And Dr. King said it very clearly. We are tied by a single thread of human destiny, and it is our humanity. So this is Theo Henderson with We in the Unhoused, and I thank you all for listening, and may we all again meet in the light of understanding. Thank you very much. Good morning. This is Theo Henderson from We the Unhoused podcast. I have two guests here today, and I want to share you some experiences they've had. When people hear about CPS, many people hear different things, the most extreme cases of children being abandoned and things of that nature or hurt badly. But they don't hear about the issues from the perspective of unhoused parents and unhoused people that have been in the system or been ripped apart. So today in this podcast, we're going to discuss this. We're going to just talk with Black Lily and Black Wolf. Let's get started with Black Willie first, and then we will hand the mic over to Black Wolf. So Black Lily, welcome, and tell us a little bit about your story.
Hi, my name is Black Lily. I first came out to LA in hopes of starting a career, singing, acting, both those actually. But then I ended up having a relationship with somebody that resulted in a pregnancy. The guy left. I was put into housing programs that weren't exactly helpful. People think that, just go to a shelter, just go to this program over here, and they think it'll be just fine. I thought it was going to be fine. I was wrong. Dead wrong. They called DCFS saying that I was leaving my daughter in the bathtub unattended. This was Women's Care Cottage. And they placed me and my daughter in an apartment that had cockroaches and 2 gas leaks. And then when I tried to fix it myself and call a company to get fixed, they pushed me into a different housing program, Upward Bound House. Upward Bound House kept giving my daughter water at 3 months and getting in the middle of breastfeeding. My daughter's doctor, he had me and my daughter on a strict feeding schedule every 2 hours for breastfeeding. And one night my daughter was crying. She would not stop. She wouldn't sleep in the crib. Every mother knows how their child will not sleep in the crib. So what I did was I set up a little sleeping area. I laid down a blanket on the floor. I laid a little area for her to sleep in so I wouldn't roll over on top of her. And we slept like that. She slept just fine. But once she started crying again, the police came in because apparently they were called. She was only 3 months. Police said there was nothing wrong, but the public health nurse said, you gotta take your daughter to the hospital or we're taking her. She was taken to the hospital. She was diagnosed with failure to thrive. I was really devastated about that. Kept blaming myself, which part of it, I guess, was my fault for letting everybody else parent for me. But yeah, after that, they took my daughter out of my physical custody. And after they took my daughter out of my physical custody, the housing program I was in kicked me out. And I have been homeless ever since. I've been fighting and fighting, but my health has been declining. I'm dealing with Crohn's, which is a lifelong disorder. It will never go away, and it will only get worse. I really wish I had known about this diagnosis when I was pregnant, honestly, but that's okay. But yeah, I came out here hoping for a career, and then when my daughter was born, I was hoping I would have her in my career. Well, not in my career, but, doing my career with her, and that was taken away. My chance at being a mom, taken away. Because LA thinks that, I'm not a good mom. And now that I don't have my daughter and I'm out here on the streets, now they're trying to kick the homeless out. Now I will never have the chance to see my daughter. If this thing comes to play, I will never have a chance to see my daughter. I will never have a chance to hold her. And not only that, I will not have a chance to get off the streets.
I'm sorry to hear that, and it is very difficult. Tell us something that people misunderstand about the unhoused situation.
A lot of people think that the unhoused are all just druggies, that all of them just look to get high and wasted and don't really care about their life, and that's not really the case. Some of us out here, there's some people that just gave up on life because people wouldn't help them, and so the only way to get rid of that pain is through drugs. They also think that we have no life, that we don't know how to work, or that we don't want to work. A lot of times it's not that we don't want to work, it's that we either can't or there's no work available.
Thank you for your story. We're going to take a quick break here, and I will be back. This is Theo Henderson again from We the Unhoused, and we're out here in sunny California in Hollywood. It's a warm day, and I noticed because I too am disabled, and for me, I notice that when it gets warm, I have to have shade because of the medication that I take. I don't get sick. So I want to interview another gentleman here that is a part of the community that's here. So introduce us to you.
Hi, I am Papa Smurf.
Papa Smurf. How long have you been out here?
Oh, about a year now.
How did you become unhoused?
I lost my job, moved out to sunny California, decided why not.
What did you do for a job?
I do actually have a job. I do work for a local cafe, cookie lab place here in Hollywood.
You have cookie lab and you're still unhoused.
I am. The housing situation out here is just tremendously expensive. For a little 4x4 room, give or take, you're going to pay almost $1,000. And that's not counting your security, turning your lights on, eating groceries every month. I don't make that much money, no matter how much I work. So I'm stuck out here.
That's horrible. My question for you is, how is it being out here on the street?
Our cops are not here to protect and serve. They are here to harass us. If we do not have our tents down by 6 a.m. in the morning and it's above 50 degrees, we will get hassled. Okay? Me personally, I don't like to get out of bed before 7. I don't come knocking at your door at 6 o'clock in the morning to wake you up and tell you have to put your house down. This is where I sleep. This is where my belongings are. Leave me alone. If it was all messy and disgusting and nasty, then come talk to me. Otherwise, leave me alone.
Okay, here's a good point too. You said you work. Does your shift allow you? Do you work in the evening, graveyard, or how does this work? Because if you come in as if anybody else work, they want to have a good rest, and it doesn't seem like you're able to get that.
Well, I work Fridays and Saturdays from 10 a.m. till about 6 p.m. So, I can get my rest, but it's still not a whole lot because you can't put your tent up before 9 p.m. Okay? And y'all out here in Hollywood, California, I don't care what you say, it still gets cold by 6:30 with no sun out here. By 9 o'clock, you're freezing to death. So you get sick. And then you have to deal with living with the flu for a week in your tent. It's horrible. It's horrible.
So I'm sorry to hear that. I was going to ask, is there any particular police officers that focus in on their harassment of you?
Well, you got Detective Gainey, who leads the harassment around here, pretty much.
What are some of the most outlandish examples of this kind of harassment?
Okay, so my friend Hal over here is in a wheelchair, okay? Has a note from the doctor that states that he has the flu, that he needs to be resting. They threatened to cut the man out of his tent, pull him out, and arrest him just because he had a doctor's note saying that he was sick.
You know, there's been a lot of deaths in jails what they had happen, and based on they don't have enough adequate medical personnel to help people that are even able-bodied that can walk around, as well as the unhoused that have some challenges. So that's very disconcerting to hear that. Anything else?
Well, when you stand here and you tell me that something is above your pay grade, that doesn't work either. I'm sorry, I'm a taxpayer. I do work, so I pay taxes. Do not give me the excuse that that's above your pay grade. Another thing, I am a veteran, so that means I have fought in a war for your ass to be free, not for you to tell me that my constitutional rights do not matter. Sorry about the language. That just really aggravates me. And it's on YouTube. Go to YouTube and look for it. Officer with the ADA law. Check it out, man. He says there is we do not have a constitutional right here. Please, somebody do something.
Well said. I was pointing out, too, is that you stated you was a veteran. What war did you serve?
I served in Desert Storm.
Wow. Thank you for your service.
You're welcome.
I
appreciate your support.
Thank you. This is why I'm out here, trying to get all of the stories that's necessary so we can have compassion and better understanding of the situation. Is there any message that you would like to leave with the audience about how is the best way that we can help you?
Yo, be a neighbor. Come over and see if we need something. Ask us. We will not bite you. We are not diseased. We are human beings just like you. Be treated respect, you get respect. Just common sense.
Well said. This is Theo Henderson from We the Unhoused. I thank you all for listening, and hopefully we take into account these very same words here in Hollywood, California, as well as all over the world, as well as in Los Angeles in general. This is Theo Henderson from We the Unhoused, and we're out here in sunny California, Los Angeles, Hollywood, to be exact. And I'm interviewing a gentleman who is so gracious enough to give me some of his time. I'm going to give him a chance to tell me his story.
My name's Jay. I came out here with my husband because we ran out of where we were. We decided if we were going to be homeless, we were going to do it where the weather was nice. And
Jay, so what has your experiences been out here on the street?
Mostly the cops harassing us.
So they are not all out here to serve and protect you, just to harass. Is there any notable incident that you would like to point out that really got your goat? Or?
Well, a lot of our constitutional rights are being trampled all over, and not even just the ADA thing. It's everybody should be denied their shelter. That's just how I see it.
I agree. So tell us, what is the best way for us to be able to help you? What would you like, as if someone was to ask, what would be a viable solution to help you?
Well, if we weren't worried about having our things stolen every single day, we might be able to get some things done.
I've been trying to compose either in the earlier part of spring or this summer a talent show, and I noticed that you play guitar. How long have you been playing the guitar?
15 plus years.
What got you into playing the guitar?
There was a music class in my high school, and I decided to get into that, and it was a guitar class, and I picked up the guitar, and I just enjoyed it.
Wow. So who's your favorite shredder?
The King, Eric Clapton.
Oh, Eric Clapton. You don't like Jimi Hendrix?
Jimi Hendrix is great, yes. But Eric Clapton is the king.
Oh. Okay, what's your favorite song of his?
There's so many.
Oh, okay. Well, I understand. So you like Eric Clapton. So could you have any special songs that you created or anything?
I do have a couple of originals, yes.
Would you mind playing just a little small snippet for the audience?
Not really of my originals. It's not really that polished yet.
Oh, okay. Well, that's understandable because I'm protective about my unedited work as well. How long have you guys been at this part of Hollywood?
About 3 months.
It's been a lot of cleaning and a lot of police harassment, as you said. So that's what you could hear the police in the background. Is there any messages would you like to get the police to allow you guys to have your tent up or a little bit? You know, would you be acceptable with that? Because I'm looking at this place here, and it's very clean. I don't understand why they always say the unhoused people are just a mess. And every encampment I've gone to and interview with people, it's been clean. I just don't understand this lie that they keep saying.
Right, and when they do come through and do their cleaning, they don't even clean. They don't sweep or anything. And if we had a broom, it'd be cleaner than it is.
So what do they do when they come to clean?
They just pick up the trash and take a half hour to an hour break and leave.
Wow. So there you have it. This is Theo Henderson from the Unhoused. Thank you for listening, and may we all again meet in the light of understanding. This is Theo Henderson from We the Unhoused. Again, I want to talk to two people here that are living under a bridge and to get their name and their stories. So let's start with Lezzie. How long have you been out here?
I've been out here since 2000. Out here since 2010.
So you've been here close to 10 years.
Yeah.
So how did you become unhoused? You said you was an addict, right?
I'm an addict originally from New York. My mom passed away, which was kind of bad because my addiction led me codependent on her. And when she passed away, I didn't know what to do, so I came out here because my daughter has her father out here, and I've been on the streets since.
So when was the first time you became hooked on, what is your drug of choice?
Well, when I was in New York, it was crack. I smoked crack for almost 30 years, and I'm actually almost 50. And out here, it's definitely crystal meth.
How is it, you said earlier, the harassment. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, everybody's not an addict. There are a lot of people that have mental illness out here. There's disabilities, and the harassment is relentless. We have our part to play with the trash is a big problem, but when there's no
when you say that, like for example, some camps don't have trash cans and they ask for it, and they're very neat. So that's why is it? Do you think the city won't provide that if they want the trash gone?
Money, because it takes away from the paychecks of sanitation, or it puts too much in their pockets because they're not. The city doesn't, or the state doesn't want to pay that much money to constantly have these cleanups the way that they do. But we actually convinced them finally to give us trash cans, and they have. If you want to help homeless people who have mental disabilities, the first way to start is not just the trash. Yeah, accommodate us a little bit. We're willing to work with them if they're willing to work with us, like a porta potty or two, provided you have, like, this bridge is kind of a community, so we know each other here.
Excellent.
So they don't have a problem keeping things clean over here. I don't know where anybody else.
The Echo Park does. Other places do the same thing.
I've seen a lot of places that are clean, but like stuff like that.
Yeah, but some of them don't have bathrooms.
Because homeless is never going to go away. Homelessness is forever.
Yeah.
It's eternal. It's not going to go away.
They say 220 by 220.
It's impossible.
222. Anybody that gets caught on the streets is going to prison.
My question is this, too, about being unhoused or living under a bridge, is that the fact is you just said that you have a community. I've been to other places where there are communities as well, and they also have the same thing. They want porta potties, mobile showers, and if you want to work with them, that they're more than happy to work with them. But like you say, it's like a money thing. They have more money. It costs $3,000 for them to come and clean up all those tents and throw it in the trash, where it would be cheaper.
Not getting paid.
Cops are getting overtime. So that is one of the things that it's what you have to understand. When they send out a care team, it's over $3,000 for that to be taken in place. Because if you're a police officer or a sanitation worker, they are on the clock. They have, because they're not doing it voluntarily. They go.
I love the Hollywood police station, and they respect me as much as I respect them.
Believe it or not, what people don't seem to realize is homeless people deal with the bulk of. I mean, you have the officers, you have fire trucks that they're supposed to be on the uplaw side, and they come running by, revving their engines at all hours of the night. We have people that rev their cars all hours of the night, people that are drinking, throwing bottles, doing this, doing that. So a lot of the homeless are extremely exhausted every single day. When we're hot, we stay hot. When we're cold, we stay cold, because we don't get to go inside where they get to go inside. And a person's circumstance, unfortunately, people don't know, because not everybody is an addict. There is mental disability. So
That's
people
why I'm out here doing the story.
Yeah, they don't see that.
Yeah.
So you would think that the people that have a home would be more dignified as to come out to help, but they don't.
Yeah.
A lot of them do themselves come out of buildings throwing trash to make us look just as worse.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people are tired. We get so tired that we don't want to keep it clean. We don't want to keep doing this and doing that for people who don't appreciate it, even as homeless, because we get knocked down a lot of times because of that.
I understand you earlier mentioned that your husband is dying of cancer.
My husband has stage 4 colon cancer.
Okay. And so you're taking care of him, or you guys are taking care of each other, it seems like. So, how long have you guys been married?
3 years.
So this is one of your support systems. I didn't get your name, sir. So what's your name?
My name's Antonio, but everybody calls me Maddog over here.
Well, Maddog, how long have you been out here on the street?
What year did I grow up my home?
I don't know.
I had a house up in Hollywood Hills. I blew it up by mistake. It was done by mistake.
Oh, okay.
I was a meth cook. A meth cook.
Okay.
And I blew it up the house because my friend of mine I hired to help me took off. My house ended up when the elbows fell and apart, and it just blew up.
I have a question. It's like, because you stated you have stage 4 cancer. Where would you have made? What was the legacy would you like to leave? Would you have any children?
The thing is this: I know I got colon cancer. I found out. Now I found out that I got so much time to live. I don't appreciate hospitals. I don't like hospitals. So ever since they can't draw blood from me and kick me out, and I was real sick, I don't go to the hospital. My wife takes care of me. She saved my leg. I got a big hole there. Right. She saved my hand. Mm-hmm. I was getting blood poisoning. When I met her, she stayed with me no matter what. She didn't care. She just wanted to be with me. Because of her, she said.
This is the type of love that, house people can learn.
She just died. I'm supposed to die. Excuse me. I'm supposed to die before everyone. And they're all dying before me. And it's bothering me because sometimes the pain gets so severe and it hits me all at nighttime. Because during the day, but when I relax at nighttime.
How are you?
Oh, I'm so sorry to hear it. It is tough to take care of somebody who has cancer or any kind of disease on the street because we don't have amenities. We don't have a bathroom. We don't have a doctor. We don't have anything that we can, so I'm kind of doing this, with God and kick naturally. And like I said, it's so tough because we are exhausted day in and day out from the relentlessness of everyone else on top of our own problems, on top of being out here.
I come over here. Now, the thing is about the homeless people, there's no unity. I've been on the streets before other places. I'm from Boston, Massachusetts. Unity. Because nobody cares. And the reason that goes because of the dope. Everybody has got fentanyl, and it's eating everybody's brains up. I'm trying to talk to these people and help them out. I smoke weed. I have medical, and it's and it's legal. Mm-hmm. But I get mine for medical, and mine is top of the line. But as soon as I walk out the door, I get SSI. But my bills, I don't have enough on my SSI to pay my bills. So I That's another reason why I'm on the street.
People don't have bills. Oh, yes, we do.
Yeah, well, exactly. I was going to say, you're the second person I know that is...
$7,000 on my bills right now.
I said as homeless, people think that we don't do anything like normal people do. Yes, we do. We just don't have a bigger
Don't
place
steal.
to put all this stuff.
I got a reputation.
We live a life.
Everybody knows us.
Yeah.
We're most reliable, dependable people. We're old, but we don't steal. My word is my word, and people trust it. And that's one way to start getting unity out here. You have to trust.
Yeah, but the problem with the unity is the dope. Honestly, the truth of the matter is...
And the substance usage community.
Yeah. The crystal meth is really, you have people that have mental disabilities that are using this drug.
Right.
And
some doctors
it is, I can't knock it because I use meth myself, and the truth of the matter is I stay calm, I can clean, I can focus when I'm using it as opposed to when I'm not. Unfortunately, I wish I didn't turn my life out that way, but that's the way my life turned out. But there are people who can't control this type of... They have disabilities mentally, they have health issues, and you see a lot of people that are walking around talking to themselves. They're completely out of their minds, and a lot of that is because of meth, honestly.
Well, you have given us education here. I wanted to ask you, if someone was to come to you and says, Lezzie and Maddog, what is the best way to help you? How can we help you?
We're willing to do our part as we are. We need a place. That's the bottom line. We need a place. It's hard for us.
I'm on Irish route.
He's disabled.
I'm so stressed out, aggravated for people just like, I give. I don't care if they use, but it hurts for a while. But I still go back and doing the same thing. We feel a lot of people.
You wanted to know how somebody can help us. Yeah, like
do what we do for them.
Yeah,
listen to the words.
If they tell you
they come
somebody,
listen to it. They come and ask for advice. The advice we give you.
And we see, like we just did an interview with Dr. Drew as well, and it's the same thing. It's the bottom line is everybody hears us, but they're not listening.
All right. Well, we're listening at We the Unhoused, and though Dr. Drew says like the majority of unhoused people are mentally ill and on drugs, which is not true, I'm encouraged to hear that you guys want to have some place. Like I say, I will do my very best to tell your story humanely and not take it and use it for some nefarious purposes. But I also wanted to leave you with this. The unhoused community is like communities here and everywhere else in California and in the world. I interview people from Greece, Japan. They all have the same thing, and they all are dealing with the same challenges that the society doesn't listen to them. So we want to make sure that they understand that these guys want a place to stay, and I'm going to try to see what we can do to try to help you. This is Theo Henderson from We the Unhoused, and I thank you all for listening, and may we again meet in a light of understanding. You guys, thank you. This episode couldn't be done without the help and efforts of many. I would like to thank our guests, Jet Perriott, Carlos Nieto, as well as others like Zen and Mario, Craig Wong from CCED, Democratic Socialist Union, Annie Shaw, Taiji Makawara, as well as many others that remain on the scenes. Melissa, who feeds for the community, Melissa Asadero, Jane Wynn, Mark Horvath. These people are getting the voices out, and thank you all again. We the Unhoused is a podcast we record every week. We interview people from different places, and we use our resources in order for it to make it happen. And up to now, we've been depleting all types of energy, time, and patience to give you a quality product. Now, you will not hear our recordings in a live, quiet studio, but what you will hear is where we meet the clients or the listeners and the guests at these places where they are. In order for this to continue, we're going to need some help in order for us to start a new project where we will have We the Unhoused for people that are want to share their stories visually, and then we're going to have a podcast for We the Unhoused for children. So in order for this to happen, we're going to need a lot of help from our listeners and for people that are interested in doing something for the community. And after this, if you would like to contribute to this campaign, you can contact We the Unhoused on Twitter. That's my thing, where I have a PayPal link, and you can link it there, and you can make any donation from $2 to $5 or however you feel. But it's really appreciated. 1 in 4 Californians believe they or a family member can become unhoused. Prior to the housing and unhoused crises, many people had wrote off the unhoused community as criminals deserving nothing more but the highest contempt. Countless times have I conversed with people who were stubborn in this belief. Though 28% still believe this evil practice, more of society is waking up to the fact that the group of neighbors you share mimosas brunches with will call their local council member and law enforcement officials if you pitch your tent in front of their neighborhood. Despite this shift, there is much work to be done. We have a pecking order in the unhoused community with messages to exclude unworthy in their eyes of unhoused people, advocating for law enforcement to harass, target, and even kill other unworthy unhoused. And I say it before and I will say it again. No matter what boat we came in on, we are in the same boat now, housed and unhoused. I've interviewed so many people out here in unhoused, and they have all the warts and flaws like anybody else that are housed. They do not deserve to be criminalized, tortured, or harassed. Dignity is a word that's often tossed around, but we don't understand that. But in this episode, I hope you understood what dignity means to a member that has stage 4 colon cancer. It is not the constant threat of harassment from police, local council members such as Nuri Martinez saying, if we harass them enough, they will go away. But the man is dying. A very simple dignified response to him and his wife, find them a place where she can care for him, and his last remaining time is peaceful and without stress and without problems. I'm sure we can find it within our hearts, our intestinal fortitude, that we can do something about this crisis. Right now, we're in a dark time in history, from the president to our local council members. They are indifferent to the sufferings of unhoused people, but they are receptive to listening to the pocketbooks of the rich. When will it end? When are we going to evict these interlopers in our justice system? When are we going to give the walking papers to these council members? Mitchell Farrell, his election day is in 2022. So we, as the housed and unhoused community, it is very incumbent upon us to look at this and give them their walking papers. We cannot let the rest of society forget that they were on the wrong side of history and they are dangerous to our humanity. We cannot let them overshadow that. I thank you all for listening, and may we again meet in the light of understanding.